All right, so we're changing it up a little bit here with a documentary. So we're going to come at this from the place of the believer, Mulder, and the skeptic, Scully. Our sexes have been reversed, much like modern day film. They love the role reversal.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I think I'm going to let Kaylee take this one. Now, this is brought to us from the people who do the show Hellier, or did the show Hellier.
Yes.
Greg and Dana Newkirk.
Yes.
Okay, I got it right.
Yeah.
Kaylee has watched a good amount of Hellier. I've watched none of it because I think all of this stuff is pure nonsense. And I was a total spoil sport the entire watch.
Yeah, he was.
Being like, they did this. This is because this film proves literally nothing to me. This is exactly what I'm talking about when I watch this shit. This is literally every single thing in here I can explain in 2 seconds flat.
Yeah.
So anyway, tell them what it's about.
So this is about Greg and Dana have a haunted objects like museum, traveling museum. So people, they're paranormal investigators.
This is not a movie, by the way. It's a movie, but it's a documentary.
It's
not like a found footage.
It is a true story, like true documentary, like real life.
Yeah.
So people send them. They collect haunted objects, cursed objects, and basically this involves them getting an object sent to them in the mail called the what is it? What is the name of the mountain range?
The Catskill
Crone.
Yeah.
Well, they end up naming it that, but anyway, it's just their investigation into this object and the journey to like unbind or release the spirit that's been trapped in it. After there's paranormal experiences or phenomena that start happening around the object in their house, and the person that they get it from also describes some paranormal stuff going on. So yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah, so now as a fan of Hellier and as a believer of this kind of stuff, how did this documentary like stack up against other things like this that you've watched?
I really like their, like, I guess, so the company Planet Weird, like, it's a group of them, like friends, the same people obviously that are involved in Hellier are also involved in this. And I really like the seriousness with which they approach the subject. I feel like, you know, when I was growing up, I don't really watch them anymore, but I used to watch a lot of those like ghost hunting shows, and they're very like gimmicky and like made for TV, and as fun as they were to watch, I was never like sold that it was real. But it was always cool to like hear the stories about the places that they were going to, like the haunted like history of wherever, you know, like that was more why I watched it versus like the investigation part I never liked because I felt like they were overreacting or whatever, you know, like. So with these, with Greg and Dana, like I feel like their reactions are appropriate and they feel believable and authentic, and I get a real sense of their authenticity, which is important with anything, you know, paranormal. I think that if you don't believe in the people that you're watching to be telling the truth or like really expressing like what they experienced, then like you do miss out on learning more about something paranormal, because I think so much of the paranormal experience is just that, like it's an experience and it's not quantifiable in some ways. So I really like the style. I think that the cinematography is really great too in both this as well as in Hellier. Like it's got really nice like muted tones and it feels really spooky but not like fake spooky. Like it just has like a comfy spookiness to it that just gets me in the mood, and yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a great documentary.
Oh, good.
So
okay. So you got my money's worth.
Yeah, I got your money's worth.
Okay, that's good. I mean, I found this. I put this on the list of upcoming horror releases and was like, you know, I know Kaylee's gonna want to watch this, so if we get the time, which we did, we'll put it on and I'll humor it for her because I didn't watch Hellier with her. these things they feel like a total waste of my time. And I think that, like, I was thinking about while you're talking about it too. I was like, I'm sure these guys have some like real diehard followers, and they're gonna be like in our comments like, Dana and Greg are the fucking oh my god, you don't know.
Hopefully, I mean, it's kind of like anytime you get into one of those kinds of community, like the paranormal and like spiritual communities, I think you always have a mixed bag where you have people that are really genuine, like good people that are wanting to find the truth, wanting to explore like those outer reaches of like the universe or whatever, and then you have like crazy people that are attracted to that too. So it's just, I think it's probably just a mix. But I mean, I definitely, I do not think this is the kind of documentary that you as like a skeptic would go into and be like, wow, like that's definite proof of the paranormal. I think that there are some things.
Tell me.
Yeah, I think there are things that they document that are really cool and definitely like if you're already a believer, then they kind of add. I think they might add to that for you. Yeah. There's one method that they use in this as well as in Hellier, which one of their like friends, he's the one that does it in Hellier, but it's a method of like psychic communication called the Estes method, which I think is because they were at the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park when they figured out how to do it, which is really cool. I think it's such a cool concept because they take a spirit box, but they put like whoever the medium is supposed to be, they put like noise canceling headphones on them. So all they hear is the spirit box, and they blindfold them so they can't hear or see the people in the room. And then there's people outside that are asking questions to whatever. Yeah. And then the person becomes a transmitter. Yeah. I think that's really cool because in Hellier they used it, and it's just very fascinating how like direct the answers are to questions. And it's obvious that the person is not seeing or hearing. So unless you're super skeptical and then you're like, this is all staged and they're just saying whatever. But I think as far as like, because that's the thing with like, with psychic community, it's like how much of it is confirmation bias? Like how much of it is you projecting what you want to hear or see or whatever. And I think that doing this where you're limiting your senses so that you're only honing in on like what you hear. Yeah. It just to me feels like a really unique way to approach it. So I really like that that they use that in this, and I thought that was a really cool segment of the documentary.
Which obviously, like you can make yourself hear or you can make yourself see anything if you're open enough to it or whatever, right? Like that don't make it true. My question I had to her the whole film was like, do these guys actually believe? Because my answer to that is obviously if they're staging it, they don't believe, right? If they're not staging it, then they believe, right? You can't tell me that someone's staging something and believes, because there are people who are like, well, I knew you'd never believe me, so I staged it, right? Like the girl in The Conjuring. Sure. Right, she did that because it's like, well, they wouldn't do anything while you were here, so I staged it while you weren't, all that kind of stuff. But to me, total nonsense. I did not come into this obviously as a believer, and I came out of it probably the same or less of a believer than I was or not less of a believer, less of a believer.
Less of a believer. This made you feel less. Really? This made you feel like you were more of a skeptic.
Absolutely. That's if anything, I would say, but I'm like,
I don't understand why.
I'm at 0%, so I don't think you go any lower.
I just don't think anything in this documentary is like pushing the like trying to shake the foundations.
No, it's because there's literally nothing in this.
I disagree with that.
It's all anecdotal nonsense. There's just, babe, you and I could stage literally absolutely everything in this film.
I'm not questioning that it can't be staged. I'm not saying that. Like,
there's not even much to stage in here. This is why you like it, is because of how subtle it is. That they're not like, okay, because if this thing was like showing things levitating around the room and stuff, you would probably be like, I'm out, right? So they're smart to keep it really small scale and to never show anything and to do everything as a dramatization anecdotally. That stuff to me is like that. As a man of science and science alone, anecdotal evidence is literally the lowest form of evidence possible. Like that's nothing. Like firsthand accounts of like, I saw this thing. Who cares? That's not evidence. So as someone who followed James Randi's career for a long time, a guy who literally walked around with $1 million check in his pocket and was like, prove me wrong. Have me and my group of scientists come out to whoever, anywhere on Earth. Literally, guy went around for 45 years to every country, to every person who said they were a psychic, who said they had a haunted house, or whatever. And he was like, I will give you $1 million if you can show me something that can't be proved by science. And over like 45, 50 years, all around the world, he could never, ever find a single person, not a single claim that he couldn't. That to me is just... It's just not there. The evidence like, just isn't
who
there.
Want to get that money?
Because there's so many people. Do you really think like the scientific community and this and that's trying to repress it? They're like lying about it, right? Like
no,
everyone would be interested in this. Everybody would want to be like, we're all afraid of death.
Yes,
we all want to know what's going on outside of this realm, right?
In the same way that like if aliens showed up and we're like on the planet, even though we get this like confirmation from the government that there's alien life, like really having like when they're like the whole like UFO like disclosure thing that happened, like
you mean the one recently. Guy who was a like retired person that came out and blew the whistle on them? That's not the government coming out. Okay. That's a guy saying he saw stuff. That's not proof. The point
that I was going to make is that like those kinds of things like dramatically change people's worldviews, and it would totally reshape societies like overnight if there was just like verifiable, provable evidence of whatever. I'm not saying that that's, and I'm not saying that there's like a cabal trying to repress like that there is paranormal evidence out there or anything like that. I'm not saying that. I don't know. I mean, it's I don't really have the knowledge, I feel like, to try and make you like not a skeptic, because I am somebody who's coming at it from just like, I believe in this and I've had like weird experiences in my life, but my whole life I felt like this. But it does for you, because you don't take
proof.
But that's what I mean, like knowledge and proof. And I'm sure that there are like probably like not documented things, but there's got to be stuff out there that people can show you that are like more of a verifiable thing for you.
No, there's nothing that someone could show me. I would have to see it for myself. So you can't show me a video and prove it to me. That's not going to work.
But right? You've even said, though, that if something happened in front of you, you wouldn't believe it. Like, because I feel like you don't want to. I feel like part of your block is that you just straight up don't want to believe it.
No, that's not the case. I think where this comes from, if we're getting more personal about it, is that, and you know this, as a child, my stepfather was super into this shit.
Yeah.
And literally took me around as a kid to haunted locations. We stayed in haunted hotels. We stayed on the Queen Mary. We went below decks after hours, going past security and getting down there in the 90s and taking the different freaking readers that he bought, and we went and we tried to like summon things, and we stayed in like murder rooms, and I was a very impressionable kid. I was somebody who was wide open at that point, right? And we investigated all sorts of shit for a long time.
Yeah.
I saw nothing of any sort ever, not one single time.
Part of it is because your
stepfather
was doing
Ouija boards, going out there, fucking trying to summon. I was all in. I was like trying to get the spirits.
Yeah, and so
anything I could.
You had no experiences, but do you also think that because your stepfather was so into it, that also makes you have like an aversion to it?
No. If I'd seen anything that was unexplainable, if I had heard anything, then I would have been like, oh, my experiences, right? and we went to the places that are supposedly haunted. So that's my own experience with it. Now, could I be wrong? Sure, of course. Could you be wrong? Probably. I think Occam's razor would suggest that I'm probably right here. That because there is literally no definitive evidence ever, and we have so many ways to record things now, right? It's just, to me, once upon a time, it's more believable because we don't know anything about the world. But in 2023, I got nothing. But anyways, that's not what we're here to talk about. We were just doing a fun little bit. Kaylee and I did do some a live stream where we read some stories. I would like to continue to do that. I think that would be fun. I'm not against. I don't have any biases towards this. I'm just I like to be the rational voice in the room, because when Kaylee's watching this and this thing happens, right, with the Jesus and all that stuff that happens in this, she's like, oh, and I'm the voice of reason on the outside going, they could have just done this, right? And it's like a very easy explanation. And I feel like I am a spoil sport for that with her in that moment. But at the same time, I am someone who lived in Sedona for almost 20 years, and I saw people rejecting their advice from their doctors with cancer.
I get
because
that.
A psychic told them, but I don't know, you probably should do this instead. Give me money.
I don't get the sense that the people involved in this
it can be dangerous.
Are like trying to sling snake oil or anything. Like they feel like.
I do.
I don't feel like that at all.
I feel like they're trying to sell a product so that they can make money and make a living.
I mean, yes, they're trying to make a living. There's no doubt about that. But they're trying to pursue something that they're passionate about and that they want to further research and investigate. And I don't think there's anything wrong with doing that.
No, I don't.
And
either.
I don't think that they're trying to sell something that could be harmful to people, because it's do this instead of going to your doctor, instead of whatever.
Yeah.
And I said at the beginning, I think that depending on what you feel when you're watching somebody, if you feel like they're being genuine, that greatly impacts how you receive whatever content it is that they're showing you. So
if you were the people from Hellier, if you were Dana and Greg, and you had this cursed object collection, and you had already shot this Hellier show, right? And you were somebody who was already very into video production, and you knew you had a show, and you knew that you were going to experience these things.
Yeah, I know what you're going to say. Why wouldn't you be filming all the time? But I think that the things that happened in this were happening either before or they weren't filming at the same time or after. It didn't happen after Hellier.
They're saying that they received tons of stuff.
Yeah.
And that 1% of the time, this changes the way they think about cursed objects and everything, right?
Yeah.
Those are the things. Okay, so since the cats killed Crone,
yeah,
have they now installed cameras in their house to catch this stuff on camera? Because some Jesus being broken apart, some Crone moving around the house, that shit, that it's all anecdotal and told to the camera. Okay. Film it next time. You got cursed objects, they're coming in droves. So if you have another one, they're going to have another one, right?
It sucks though, because you're film the stuff, but then you're I won't believe it if I see it on video.
I'm just saying, at least get it on video,
because
that's better evidence, right? It's better evidence than nothing.
But
they gave us nothing. What I'm saying is that you would have more evidence to give to me, right? So
for you to
you
say
would
I
have
don't
more
believe
of it.
It's
No,
staged.
What I'm saying is you would have more of an argument. You'd have more of a leg to stand on, to where you would be look, they showed us the footage, and then you could have an argument of well, you're not going to what you're saying. You're not going to believe no matter what. And then I'd kind of have to sit here and go, well, okay. I mean, they do have the footage. At least I could humor you in that way. When there's giving me nothing. But stories. I can tell you a story all day. That don't mean anything.
Yeah.
I can write a really cool story right now. I mean, you and I were working on an idea for an ARG.
Yeah.
Right? Where we were going to find something that was going to come in the mail and all this stuff. And we could write all sorts of cool things around it. Don't make it true. So what I'm saying is yes, and I agree with you, and I even thought of that when I said it. I'm going to sound hypocritical, and I do. That is hypocritical. That is hypocrisy. I'm saying they should film it, but I'm not going to believe their footage. But to my defense, what I'm trying to say is that at least get something.
Yeah, but I think
and with this, I feel like there's literally nothing in here. Is there something in here that you saw that you felt like was actual evidence?
Yeah, there's a video where there's an object moving when nothing's around it. Or not a video, there's like a set of photos.
Bro.
And
photos, snap a shot, move it, snap a shot, move it, snap a shot. So I think you already
said it though, like it doesn't matter what people show you. Like you would have to experience something. So
I agree.
For people, like that's why like documentaries and things like this, it really isn't for skeptics. It's not for people like you.
True.
Because it's not going to change anything for how you view on it or what you view. Like it's only for people that have already had experiences or are very open-minded to like those possibilities. And not that you're not open-minded, but you're too skeptical without the lived experience of it.
Maybe you're not skeptical enough. So I think that it could be a mix of both. I think that you're probably too open, and I think I'm probably too closed-minded. Because I think that you're like, you are Mulder in this sense of like, I want to believe, right? So people who are very open to that, they want to believe it's true. So they will look at bullshit and be like, oh yeah, maybe. Or like, yeah, that's very believable. Right? As to where I'm on the other end of the spectrum where it's like, they can show me a video and I'm like, yeah, you use special effects or whatever, right? So like, I do think there's more of a middle ground that people should probably exist on where you're like, okay, like, I'm going to be a mild skeptic here, right? And I'm going to approach this from a place of openness, but also like, you're going to have to do really good because if you bring me things that I can immediately be like, snap a picture, move it, snap a picture, then it becomes very questionable. And so I don't know. I think there does need to be a middle ground with this kind of stuff because I think when people are too open-minded, they're too compromised, right? To fall for anything, right? Because as I said, I lived in a place where people were such believers and they would come in and they would say the most obvious nonsense, like pure nonsense that I'm like, there's zero chance this is true. Now with the paranormal and this and that, are there ghosts? Maybe. I mean, maybe. Do I think there's a possibility that we have like ghosts? Sure, I guess it's possible. I'm not going to say that's not possible. But there's other things that I'm outright telling you 100% is not true. But whatever. As far as the documentary goes, I do respect that they're very reserved with their material because it does give it a little bit more credibility, but then also it's a balancing act. It's like you want to show the audience something, but you don't want to show them too much because they're going to be like, this is bullshit, right? So it's like you release Paranormal Activity, the movie, and you're like, this really happened. People are going to be like, bro, no, right? As to where you release this, and I felt like I was shown absolutely nothing in this movie that would ever convince me of anything unless I was there and I actually saw it with my own eyes. Then yes, and I think that's the only way that anyone's ever going to become a true believer is if they see something that genuinely is unexplainable to them. But like, I just, the stories I've heard typically in my past of people being like, I know because I've experienced things, and we're going to get them in the comments below, trust me. But it's going to be the like, and I've said this before a million times. I woke up, it's like 3 a.m. when they're half awake, probably still asleep, and they sense a presence or they saw something out of the corner of their eye or whatever, and they're like, it's irrefutable. I'm like, bro, that's not even close to irrefutable. That is your brain playing a fucking trick on you because you're tired or you're still asleep. Like, so if someone is like, oh man, there was a fucking fully formed ghost in front of me. We had a 3-hour conversation. Then I'd be like, you need to seek medical attention. So I am the skeptic. And that's how I started this. You shouldn't be surprised. I told you I was going to be. Okay, I'm not a believer. Prove me wrong. Send me the haunted object. Let me get cursed. Let me see it happen.
Don't do that.
Ah! All right. So if you're into this kind of stuff, Kaylee gives it the thumbs up. If you're a skeptic like me, it ain't going to change your mind. That's it. It was a fun discussion. We're just fucking around. We're just, this is not stuff to be taken seriously. I'm sorry. This is just fun stuff to discuss. You shouldn't take this kind of stuff that serious. I think you should come into it from a place where you're like, I'm open to it if I see it. Other than that, I'll listen to your stories, and I should listen to them with a skeptical mind, but I also am slightly open to it. That's the best way to approach this, and I feel like neither of us are doing that. I feel like you're 100% like, yeah, what? And I'm like, nope. All right, guys.
Bye.